I'm Megan Wu. I'm the Director of Integrated Resources at RMLD. Um, so we we heard from Amy that the trustees first of all, want to get regular updates on the EV charging stations, charging data. We can definitely do that. But I think the purpose of today is to discuss the potential changes to the parking space. So I'm gonna, introduce RMMD a little bit for those of you who don't know. And then I'm gonna explain some of the data trends, the charging trends that we've seen so far. And then I'm gonna propose what we could be changing to the parking space. But before I say all that, I want to say I'm also a Reading resident. My son and I have enjoyed all the program activities at the Reading Library for years. So thank you. Next. So RMOD is a local public power utility, and we're kind of special. There are 41 of us in Massachusetts. We are probably the only one that serves more than one town. So we serve Reading, North Reading, Wilmington, and Linfield Center. We have serve about 70,000 residents. We have about 30,000 meters. That means we have about 30,000 customers. About 24,000 of that are residential customers. And our mission is to serve our customers with reliable, low cost, and increasingly non-carbon energy. And we have two boards because we're special. We have a 5-person board of commissioners, that's the official board. We also have a 5-person citizens advisory board from all 4 towns. And I'm listing here some non-carbon strategies that we're implementing. I think the EV charging stations that we have here at the Reading Library belongs to the first category, where we work with our customers. We provide a lot of incentive programs for them to improve energy efficiency, to install heat pumps, EV chargers, do load management, solar, and also do demand response programs. But we also work with our customers, such as a library, that either the library can own the chargers or we can own the chargers. In this case, we own the chargers, and the library provided the parking space for these public EV chargers. We also are working hard on in-territory non-carbon generation. That way, when we have our in-territory generation, we can avoid a lot of the transmission and capacity costs that we pay to the suppliers. So we're trying to build solar and storage projects, and also we're working with quite a few business partners to explore new technologies in terms of energy supply. So that's kind of the introduction to RMLD. I don't know if you have any questions, and we can move on. So you all probably know this. We installed it's a one station, but with 2 ports, so 2 cars can charge at the same time. So we installed one 2-port level 2 charging station in 2022, and then another one is a 2-port, that's a DCFC, which means direct current fast charging, in 2023. So level 2 chargers, they take a little longer usually take 4 to 8 hours to fill up a car. And the DCF chargers are much faster. Half an hour, it can get you quite a bit of miles. So this DCFC charger is the first public charger in our territory. And it has, when I show you the data, you can see that it's probably one of the most popular public chargers in our territory. And we install these chargers with the support from the state funding from the Department of Environmental Protection. So along with the funding, there are some requirements. So I'm listing a few of the key requirements that's relevant to our discussion today. One is it needs to have one accessible space. That's for disability purpose. And one space needs the marking to say either it's a signage or it's a marking on the ground, which I think we do it here, to say that this is dedicated to EV charging. But for the DCFC charging station, the grant requirements also includes that the ports have to be compatible, have to be available for both it's called a CHAdeMO and CCS ports. It's basically 2 different kinds of connectors. the CHAdeMO is an older version, older technology of EV chargers, and the CCS is a more kind of a more recent charger. But then just for equity purpose, the grant requires that we have availability for both ports. And then the last requirement is these charging stations have to be maintained and in operation for at least 3 consecutive years. Do you have any questions on this? Okay, we're gonna move on to the next one. So we started around 2022 with a level 2, and then 2023 with a level 3. I want to kind of provide the context for, so when you see these charts, we're making it consistent. All the yellow bars are the DCFC, the level 3 chargers. I want to explain that in 2024, unfortunately, for about 5 to 6 months, the charger was out of order, and we worked very diligently with the vendors, and we actually had 3 vendors, so vendor. We had to jump through a lot of hoops to try to get that re-energized, fixed, like change, basically replace the charging cable and other pieces to make it work again. So the 2024, the full year data is now a complete like representation of what the whole year might look like, but it already shows quite a bit of increase just with those few months of being available. And then when you look at the 2025 data, that's just 1 month of data. And we already see, like, if you look at on the left, the number of charging sessions, and just in 1 month, we have over almost 300 charging sessions. And compare that for the whole year, it's about, I can't see it here, it's about, yeah. So we really expect a lot of growth in charging sessions this year. Now, fingers crossed the chargers won't be broken again. So on the left, that's the number of charging session. On the right is the kind of average time or average duration of the charging. And for the most part, it's really fast turnover, just like the library users. It's less than 2 hours, usually one hour, less than 1 hour, or less than 2 hours. So that's that. And then the other piece of data I want to show to you are I think there was a question about when do 2 cars actually charge at the same time. We collected some of these data, and I'm not sure entirely, like we have to make some assumption. We're still working with the charging network companies because some of their data are not self-explanatory. So this is what we can glean from the data we have now. So the numbers are small, but the trend is clear. They still see a growth. I'm not gonna say it's only we're in like single digit here. So I'm not gonna say how much growth it is, but we can see it, more people are using it. But it is common that at least for now, all these 4 ports, I think only 2 of them are in use. Like one of the 2 ports are in use. So, but kind of a simultaneous occupation does exist, but it's a small number. The other chart that I'm showing here is, the timing of charging. And also, I think that's kind of coincides with the library visitors as well. It's mostly during the day, between 9 and 5, and then during in the evening hours. That's the highest. Okay, I think that's all. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm asking for clarification. Thank you. Um, The lower left chart is showing the number of times both chargers are in use, and the highest one we show is in December 12 and 3. So where both chargers were being used at the same time. Okay, thank you.
We kind of moved to the 2-digit level late last year and early this year. So that's all the charging trends that we are seeing. I don't know if you have any question on this before I move on to our proposal on the parking space. Yeah.
sorry about that, on the lower left graph, is that saying that basically 2 parking spaces are occupied or 4?
2. So for
Thank you.
blue is 2, for yellow is 2.
Got it.
Yeah. All right. I guess we'll move to the last slide. I understand there might be some not confusion, but wondering, like it sounds like there was something that was said before, and then now this is what happened. So I came to this in the middle of it too, and we did manage to get that 5th space hashed out as the accessible space in order to complete the grant requirement from the DEP. And then I later heard from Amy that originally there were only 4 spaces planned for it. So just considering all the equity requirements for the DCFC, the level 3 chargers, so what I'm proposing is that we keep what we designed for the DCFC, which is on the right, with the hashed, the accessibility, and then 2 spots. And also because the fast chargers, the cable, because it's a lot, it's 150 kilowatt, it's about 100, so it's a huge cable and shorter cable. So it's not easy for people to maneuver that, especially for people with disability. You want that really closeness to the charger. So I'm proposing actually for the level 2 charger spaces, we can, what do you call that? Wipe out the marking for 1 space so that if someone's not charging there, any library user can park there just as a regular parking space. So it's like a first come, first serve kind of thing. That way, the accessible, the hashed one, which is not a parking spot, can still qualify for the grant. And then we have 1 dedicated marking for EV users. That's also meeting the requirement of the grant. So that's our proposal. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
So I have a question with the spot that's hash marked. So
On the right?
on the right.
Yeah.
So if I were driving a handicap vehicle, would I know that I could park there? I would.
Yeah.
'Cause there's no handicap symbol anywhere. That's why I'm confused.
Yeah, that's a standard.
Okay, so I would know. If
Yeah.
I had
Yes,
that need, I would
we
know.
have this thick DEP guideline on accessibility, so we just follow that. Actually, we work with the town of Reading. It's the DPW director. We figure out this kind of a design.
Okay. And then why are you recommending that spot and not the one right to the left of it?
Because the accessible, the other hashed
Oh, the other
space is
hash
on
is
the,
the other
on the-
way.
at the end.
Can't see it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's on the far left, and it was always sort of hashed out, not for handicap purposes, but rather like, don't park here because you'll get, it's too tight of a curve. Yeah, so that's never been a parking spot. The question is, can you do 2 level 2 chargers simultaneously? With the level 2, the one on the left, there are 2 cords?
Oh, yeah, there are 2 ports. Yes. Yeah, so if you look at the chart we had earlier, in January, there were, 11 of them? There are 11 times when both cars are charging from level 2.
And when the either go out, if that was to happen again, like, does that get noticed on the device? Does the library know right away?
Yeah, the EV vehicle owners, they wouldn't see that on the app. And I think we had actually had like a bag over it to say it's out of order. Yeah, it's actually one of the drivers who told us that they couldn't charge. There's something wrong with the connector.
And one last question. Would that spot come online right away or in June when the 3-year requirement is up?
So based on the hard requirement of the DEP, one marked space is enough. So we don't need to, if you want to change right now, I have no objection. I'm here to work with you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if there's no other questions, are there questions?
No, I'm just wondering what our charter is here. Are we going to make a vote on this evening? Or is this something to think about for a vote at a later date?
I mean, I think out of an abundance of caution, I would say that we have the information today and you all pause and think about it and come back with a decision for the March meeting. I know that delays it. First of
No,
all, we're
it's
not
fine.
going to be able to paint anything with the snow on the ground.
Right.
So, but I think our practice typically is to hear information, process it, think about it, and
Excellent.
act
Thank you.
on it a month later.
No further questions. Thank you very much. Very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the technology plan update for 2025.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to present on the technology plan for 2025. Every year, I do an update for the technology plan, and it's a way for us to, for me, and for me to explain to everybody just what we're doing and keep us on track. So, next. So the RPL's technology mission follows the library's full mission and strategic plan. The library is committed to staying current with technology and providing resources for the writing community to bridge the digital divide. We've had a very busy few years, and I want to highlight a few of our projects and accomplishments. So these are some of the highlights from 2024. Both the conference and the community rooms have updated microphones and cameras. Hybrid meetings can be held in both rooms without any additional equipment, and the process is relatively seamless. It's wonderful. We're super happy with it. Obviously, there were a few bugs, as you all know about, but we've overcome them. The new library app went live in October. Our software developer is Communico, and they were able to fast track the creation of the app so that we didn't have much, I don't think we had any downtime for the app. We went right from our former app to Communico. And we are very happy with it. There's still some bugs. If you do see any, please let me know. And some of you have already done that, and I really appreciate it. It's a visually pleasing app and allows users to view their holds, their checkouts, any events that they've registered for. They can create meeting room reservations through the app. From within it, they can also access Libby, Hoopla, the New York Times, and other databases and streaming services. And as of the end of January, there were currently 3,232 users. Our new events and meeting room software is also through Communico. This is part of a package deal that included the app, this software, and eventually you'll see it in the website. These were all different platforms, and we believe this will improve the patron experience and staff experience as well. We implemented all these changes within the last few years with the last year with relatively few bumps. And in fact, these were all done within, I think, a space of 6 months. So it was a lot. And now our future state of technology. So we will be creating a new website. Well, Amy, AV, and working with a few other staff members, is creating a new website, which we're really excited about. That will be going live in the spring. And you'll see, again, it's going to be there will be some very similar, the way that it looks, the look and feel of it is very similar to the app and the reservation system. We are also going to be educating. We are going to be implementing a new patron tutorial program. So we're not going to be using net guides. What we're going to be doing is more staff training with technology. So they will be doing classes and individual technology training, covering everything from the basics to navigating artificial intelligence tools and other emerging technologies. Because everything is happening so fast, library staff are trying to stay updated on the use of artificial intelligence tools and other emerging technologies by participating in conferences, webinars, and engaging in professional development activities. And things are changing so rapidly. There is something that the Massachusetts library system does. So every month on a Friday, they do a AI technology hour. And she can only do the agenda for the next couple months because the technology is so rapidly changing. And it's a really helpful webinar that many of us have already attended. And lastly, we received a 3D printer that a generous patron donated to us. Staff are going to be testing its capabilities and considering how to provide public access to this service. We weren't going to get a 3D printer, but this one has, it uses plant-based filament that's renewable and non-toxic. There's no odor to it. And so we're really excited to get that going as well. And in closing, the technology plan is updated every year. It's useful as a guide for staff to check in and about what we're doing with our future technology goals. Last year I went over it really in detail, and this year I'm sort of giving a higher view of it. And that's it. I'm happy to take questions.
I have a couple of questions. On the 3D printer, how did that come about?
Someone just, I don't know if they were a college student moving out, but they just donated it to us. And when we went over to the Andover Public Library, they have that 3D printer. And the person who donated also gave us filament. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yep.
Okay. And then a question for Amy on the website. What's the projected timeline of that?
That's a moving deadline.
Thank you.
I think we hope to have like the draft version up by March, but I'd like to run it through. It's going to look quite different, and we're focusing on different functionality. Like we're bringing it, I don't want to say we're dumbing it down, but there's not a lot of bells and whistles. We want to make it very informational.
Okay.
So we're not going to be a lot of images or pictures because we just find that goes out of date so quickly. So we're working on the copy, which is can be challenging to streamline that down, right? So it's mostly just reducing basically 100 pages to about 40 or 50.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was nervous because I was thinking there's some tech people here.
I just want to add, as a side note, thank you, Michelle, very much. we do have a document that, you know, we don't necessarily, it's a staff working document, so it's not really a public document, but if you ever have questions about anything, Michelle is always available to answer questions, but this is a relatively new practice, this idea of the technology. I say new, it's newer to us, but when Michelle and I first talked about it, it was just sort of like, let's have an inventory of everything that's there. And then we're like, oh, we should really kind of plan. Oh, we have the strategic plan. And so it's eventually grown. And the document as it stands today, the work that Michelle's done on this is really incredible. So I just want to make sure she gets credit for that because it's pulling a lot of different pieces together. And that's when we notice things like we have 3 different platforms for 3 different pieces that don't talk to each other. So it's a pain for this, or it's a pain for that. And we don't necessarily see that or take the time to look at that until we take the time to go through the document and see what needs to be updated and things that are end of life. So it's a great project, and thank you to Michelle for doing that every year.
Thank you, Michelle. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is the financial report.
We will pause briefly while I find that. I don't need to look at it online. Yeah, so basically the budget is doing really well. Our salaries are still in good shape. We'll definitely be, at this point, anticipate turning back some salary money back to the town at the end of the year. One thing that I'd really like to highlight is this report. I think it's at the endish of the packet. Did we include it? Did I not include it? Did I not include it? Oh, it's right before that. The professional development, yes. So this absolutely 100% amazing year-to-date professional development report that Megan has put together for us. It is difficult to track professional development activities for a learning organization that has this many people. So from memberships to webinars to actually paying for conferences and registrations, the amount of data that we could have gotten is much more, and we will dig into it. But we're spot on for professional development. We're ready for MLA. We have, we think we're going to have 1 tuition reimbursement, which was built into the request, which was built into this year's budget. We've been leveraging, I think in March, we have a group of 3 or 4 people taking an ALA course, which we were able to get a discount because we had more than 2 people taking it. So we're able to find these online and in-person things where we can really leverage group learning. So I was very pleased by this data. If you ever have any questions, I guess, you know, I try to give that very brief selected a monthly list of learning, but I just think when you look at the 1 page of selected activities, it's pretty amazing the breadth and depth of what folks here take the time to learn about at all levels. I think with the exception of pages, this is borrow services, associates right up onto the director. So probably a good 30 people taking these classes and webinars, off desk time, etc. And that's pretty much it for the financial report. Any questions?
Minor one, and nothing to do with the financial report, but in the top left of the first page where the tables are, it says as of January 31st, 58%. Does that just means 58% through the year, through the fiscal year? I'm wondering what that
Yes.
58 means.
Yes.
That was it.
Yes, we
Nothing
try to put that on the spreadsheet just so that we know, you can quickly compare that if we're 56% through the budget, then we're below budget. We're 71% through the municipal expenses, which is actually normal for this time of year because we have a lot of upfront costs. So.
Just my question. The 24 expenditures, related to professional development.
Mhm.
Were there things that just came on that calendar unexpectedly? I understand there are certain things, 25,
Yeah.
the jump from 14 to 21 was.
Yeah. A big piece of that is the PLA. We, I try to commit to sending at least one person. Last year we sent two. It's not so much the actual cost of the conference as it is the flight and the travel and all of that other stuff. So that's where that jumps up. It wasn't wholly unexpected, but there were a few things that came in that were opportunistic, I think, that we took. And that's why I do the supplemental spending. I try to do an outside ballpark of what we're going to spend in gifts and state aid to help with professional development. I think that was the first time in a while that we'd actually met met the outside goal. And the spending does vary year to year. And the base, is there a tuition reimbursement request? We don't get a ton of those, but when we do, we want to try and honor as best we can.
Thank you.
Amy, I have a question about the library programs table. So it's showing as 7.9% used,
Yes.
but I know you're running programs all the time.
Correct. So this is the municipal, not the Friends program money. And so that we upped and you will start to see that. In fact, there's probably some bills right in there for things related to the Martin Luther King Day event that are larger programs, and we'll have some for Juneteenth. It's also money that we put aside so that towards the end of the year, if we're running low, we kick off summer reading, and sometimes those are bigger expenses, but we're down at the end of our fiscal year. So that jump in FY25 went from 4,500 to 10,000 plus because we were absorbing all the OESJ programs. We're giving that back in FY26. The programming number budget will go back down to $4,500 where it was before, and that OESJ chunk of money will just go into the new OESJ budget line.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the director's report.
And we're always thankful for all the gifts that we get, and sometimes that's just people dropping $1 in the basket because they feel guilty that they returned their book so late. But I just, a call out to a very special donation we had on behalf of, I spelled her name wrong, Jocelyn Gould, there should be an O in that. Jocelyn worked with a patron who, it went spectacularly well. And this patron was so impressed by, I think not just Jocelyn's skill, which that was part of it, but also the amount of help we were able to give her and the time we were able to dedicate to her. And I think it's obviously a gift of $1,000 is greatly appreciated. And I think it speaks to how much, we try to do things in mass. We try to have big programs. We try to, have 25 copies of James Patterson's book, but also that sometimes when we take time in one-on-one situations or one-on-two situations, they are very beneficial, not just financially, but I think they fulfill community needs and connections that you can't necessarily do with wholly data-driven, go with the biggest and the best and the statistics things. The personal touch, I guess, is really, really helps. So I just wanted to call that out. Moving on to the rest of the director's report. There was, January is always a nice month. People are recovering from the holidays. We were busy as usual. The MLK event went on, even though there was some snow, but I have to say it was really amazing to work with, to see this program come across with all those other town departments, DPW facilities and food services from the school, and of course, Albert's office, and all the volunteers that came in. The program itself was great. And from the back end of things, it was really, we're very lucky to work in this town, and we have some really great staff members in all of our other departments. So to see them working together was great. I also want to highlight our Sparkly Story Time, which we had on January 25th. There were 60 people there. And again, we worked with the Reading Police Department, It was a really big event, a really nice event. Everyone felt safe, comfortable. Everyone had a fantastic time. They were dancing and laughing, and there was a lot of there's some angst, obviously, coming up to that event, but everyone had a great time, and the staff work ahead of time really, I think, paid off and shows that we can run things and have a backup plan, even if we didn't use it. Our Rooted in Reading grant is going gangbusters. I think, I can't remember how many programs they have planned for the spring, but they have a lot coming up. So you'll have a lot to hear from Andrea when the spring program update comes along. But for now, we're just still trying to keep those indoor plants. We are looking into having a service that can come in on a monthly basis and help us care for them, because some of them are a little bit exotic and need a little extra help. So that might be something the library would absorb into from our gifts or state aid, and just make sure that they're healthy and we retain our investment. Other than that, it was just a regular January.
The Rooted in Reading thing, it mentions a new craft and hobby database. What's the craft and hobby database?
Yes, so we have a new craft and hobby database. We started that in December, and it's basically a library of video tutorials on how to knit, how to do this, and it's self-paced. It's less overwhelming than just going to YouTube and trying to find, and getting 7,000 different ways to purl and knit. It has all sorts of, I think it has yeah, it's not just, I guess hobby, it'd be yoga. So there are some things that are a little more not crafty. So it was tested by several of the staff members who highly recommended it. We have a few crafty crafters on our staff, but people should be able to get to it from home or from in the library.
Congratulations, Michelle. 21 years?
It's 22.
Oh.
Dang it.
Oh,
I can't believe it either. I can't believe I got it wrong.
get
So that means
you get a year off.
Desiree is 6. That should say 22 and 6, not 20, 21 and 5. We will correct the minutes for when that comes through.
Pardon me. Any questions on that, on the director's report? If not, no. Next on the agenda is the discussion for sunsetting or extending the ad hoc library landscape committee.
I'm staring at Cherry, but I don't think I told her this was going to be on the agenda. So the landscape committee,
Do you want me to say something?
you don't have to. You can chime in. You're off the hook. The landscape committee, as you know, at the last meeting, we approved some money to do the next step in this process. I think the landscape committee is sort of wondering, what next. Their brief was to investigate what could be done and come up with some recommendations for the trustees, which you have. They are a public body. They are not a fundraising group. They are not a whatever group. So I think certainly no decisions have to be made tonight. The next meeting should be next week, although there's a slim chance it might move to the following week, but they can continue to meet every month on the third Thursday of every month and talk about stuff. I think they would appreciate some guidance of what would be expected of them. I think, unless Cherry has something else to add. So I'm not saying you have to sunset them. I think we just have to think about what their purpose is.
I think the group would like to continue. I get that feeling. It's on. It's me. I think the group would like to continue.
Is there any decision that needs to be made on that, or is this just?
This is just opening up the floor for discussion and to put your caps on. I will say as an update, I have met with procurement and engineering, and we've talked about some different directions to take the not to exceed amount that was approved at the last meeting and how to move forward with the project. The other thing is that projects going on in Reading. And this one is great because it's privately funded. It's relatively small. And I am trying to be I think we all are trying to be very sensitive to the fact that there's a lot of other people like procurement and engineering and DPW and facilities are being pulled in a lot of other directions for much bigger projects right now. So we're trying to stay on their radar and move forward. But I think we were told if we see any action, it'll be later in the spring, if not the summer, perhaps when elections are over.
I think one thing to be maybe passed along to the committee is while the foundation hasn't made any final decisions yet on how they're going to approach the figure, there is ideas of some targeted fundraising around it, or other options. And I would think that we would be very interested in the kindness of strangers, of people who might want to come in and join the foundation ever so briefly, or in parallel. I think we probably are going to need the help. I don't think we're there yet, but I think this committee can probably tee up a joint meeting at some point to get ideas flowing.
Yeah, I think that idea of, the next goal being communications, marketing, advertising to the community, getting people excited, maybe setting up some meetings with the neighbors to go, especially as we go in and head to the design process and things like that. My 2 cents is it's great to have a public meeting. It doesn't have to be long. You can accomplish a lot in less than an hour and 45 minutes. And, but it does increase the transparency. And even if you are just getting together to have a public forum with 3 people that show up, the 3 people who show up will appreciate having that. So I think there's still a role throughout this project to have a public body, an appointed body that has minutes and, takes notes. And so that way it never seems like, well, they just, decided without asking anybody. So that's just another, on the other hand, it's another meeting that people have to go to. So, but to think about what it is that this, as a public body, what that committee would be doing.
Excellent. Any questions? If not, we can move on to the approval of the January 13th, 2025 meeting minutes. Are there any questions or comments on them?
Motion to approve the January 13th, 2025 minutes.
Do we have a second? There it is. All in favor? And 6-0, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda, or future agenda items. I guess that's Amy.
So I think so these are just the things that I thought about. But obviously we might want to put on our MLD discussion onto next month. What else? We have the spring programming update. We have some changes to the policy regarding minors that you all actually passed. I think it was in this winter or spring. It wasn't that long ago, but it was before we had a tween spot. So we just want to relook at the language there. It's not a lot of changes, just some tweaking of the languages. In April, Albert will be giving you an update on all the work that he's been doing. And then in April, we might have some new trustees because the election's beginning. So, and I'll just mention March is Cherry's last elected trustee meeting. Although she's welcome to come back and have public comment.
The reason why the ad hoc is not being terminated.
Any other questions or comments this evening? Do we? Right. Yeah, I don't have anything else. Do we have a second? All in favor? The February 10th meeting is adjourned at 7:46.